Hello and welcome to another macro video. Today I'm looking at reference lists and citations, and the good news is that there are lots of mundane tasks that need to be done when you're checking and formatting reference lists and citations, which means that macros are likely to be able to give you lots of time saving. However, the bad news is that formatting reference lists is not straightforward, because there are so many complications which the human eye and brain can sort out, but for computer programs some of the tasks are quite complicated. So don't expect macros to do everything for you, but with careful use they can provide a lot of help. Some of the macros I'll be referring to are well developed and well used and are already the subject of other videos, but some of the macros I'll be mentioning are just ones that I've cobbled together for someone, and they might not work for the particular punctuation and layout of the references that you have to deal with. So if any of the macros you try don't work properly, then do get in touch and send me some sample references and I'll see what I can sort out. Okay, well, let's get started. And when I'm doing references, the first thing I do is to run proper nounalize, because that alerts me to any possible misspellings of proper nouns, obviously authors' surnames and maybe forenames as well. So I deal with that first, check those, get those sorted. Then the next possible thing to sort out is the citations against the references to make sure they're matched, and that there are no uncited references, and that the citations of references that may be missing from the list. If they're Vancouver, if we're using Vancouver referencing, then there will be we can check the reference citation of those, and it will that program will check the order and the consecutive nature of the citations. And with each of these, that you've got the URL there to look up the on YouTube to look up the video. So the next thing that we might want to sort out is whether the references, we're talking about Harvard references, whether they're in alphabetical order. Well, actually, maybe the same is true of the Vancouver ones, but that's more of an issue perhaps. So are they in order? Do we want to sort them? Or do we want to just check that the order is correct? Well, that's the subject of a video I did just recently, so you can look that one up. Now we begin to look at some of the formatting of the references here. So the first one here is where the date is in the wrong place, and the date is the information that we've got has the date at the end of the reference, and we may have to move it to the beginning. So the program there, reference date shift, will do that. Next one here is where we've got citations in the text, but they haven't got dates on them, and this was just one that somebody asked for. So the idea is that you will look at each of the references in the list and run the macro, and it will, in the case of blogs here, it will look for the reference list for blogs 1999, and it will go up and find the first reference to blogs in the text, and it will add in the date to the citation there. There's a lot of issues there. Obviously there might be two references to blogs, in which case they'll both end up in the same place, but anyway, we won't worry too much about that now. So that's reference name finder. Right, now the next one was somebody wanting, they've got the citations or the references, as it were, in the form of footnotes or endnotes, and they wanted to pull those all out to create a list of references from those footnotes. And so that's what that one does. It goes through and finds J. Smith, blah blah blah, and pulls that out and makes an alphabetical list of those references. What have we got here? Okay, so this one I'm going to demonstrate in a second. So what we've got here is we're trying to format the reference list, but we've got all the forenames are there, or maybe some are initials and some are forenames. We want to be able to change those to initials. So if I bring up an example file, okay, here we are. So we've got the names there, and we want to be able to change them to initials. Well, obviously it's quite a complicated thing to work out which are the forenames and which are the surnames, but you as the intelligent editor can see which is which. So the macro will go through and offer those names to you. I'll show you. So if I run the macro, it looks at that first one there, and if I can, by how I respond to this question, initialize. If I type full stop enter, it will change it, and again full stop enter, that will change it. That one does not want changing, so I just press the enter key, full stop enter, enter, full stop enter, enter. Now I could go through those, enter, enter, but I've got another key I can press, plus return, and it will then jump down to the next one. So full stop, jump to the next one, and so on. Okay, so that's that one, and 0 return will stop the macro from running. Now the second one, so a similar sort of area, is where the surnames are in capitals. So if they've got you've got both problems on this first one here. You've got the forename's got to be changed to initials, and the surnames have got to be changed to initial capital. So obviously you would run the initializer, so you'd run that, okay, and as you can see it's skipping past Carter and Alzheimer because they're in full caps, so it's ignoring that. So let's stop that one so I don't get too confused. So I want to run those from full caps to lowercase. So I start from there and run the second macro. That's there. So that one's changing. So full stop enter, full stop enter, full stop enter. As you can see, it's more straightforward than the previous macro because they're all wanting changing. But of course, if the reference has got acronyms in it, like BBC or something, then I can just press enter and it will skip that, and it will skip that, and then I can change that and so on. So let's stop that one running. So let's move that out of the way, and let's have a look what's the next one. Right, now this one really is a powerful macro, and it's AuthorDateFormatter, and so all he says, all it does is to deal with that first part of each reference in the list. However, it does a lot with it, and you can decide how you want it formatting. Do you want the initials to have full stops or not? Do you want them to be spaced or not? Do you want ampersand or do you want and? All sorts of stuff about how it's formatted, and these are all set up in the macro. So you have to make all those formatting decisions and put them into the beginning of the macro. And I've reproduced the beginning of the macro here so you can see the different bits. And what I've got, the way I've done it, I've got two sets of decisions on how it's formatted. I've called them case 1 and case 2. So there's case 1, and those are all the decisions that have to be made. And there's case 2, and those are all the decisions that have to be made. So this is within the beginning of the macro. So if you're dealing with a particular client, then you'll probably have fairly commonly one set of the way the client wants it formatted, and maybe you've got two different clients and they want different formatting. You can use the same macro but change from option set 1 to option set 2, so you've got they will then be using these other different options. So just to give you a quick flavour of what the options are, you've got are the initials spaced? Is there a full point after each initial? Do you have a comma after the surname? Do you want parentheses on the date? What is the punctuation after the date? What's the punctuation before the date? You know, whether it's comma, full point, whatever. Are the initials before or after the name on the second and succeeding names? Do you have a serial comma? Do you use and or ampersand? And so on. Okay, et als, how do you want those? Do you want them metallic? So you can see there's lots of different things you can set up. So let's try and see it in action. So here's my sample text. So if I run AuthorDateFormatter AU AuthorDateFormatter, there it is, ready, steady, go. Right, okay, so it's done. It's gone through those first references, and it's found one that it's finding confusing. I presume it's these vans and D's in there that it can't handle. It's not quite sure which is the surname, which is the forename, or whatever. And so at that point we can decide to either just say, well, that's okay, we'll continue, or we say no and it'll highlight that one and carry on, or you can say cancel and it'll drop out of the macro, and then you can run the macro again from there. So if I say no, it highlights that and then carries on from there. It's found another one it can't work out. Okay, so let's cancel and stop that. So in that short space of time it formatted all those references ready to go. And if I just move that out of the way, what it's also produced is this file, and you can see what it's changed. So you can see that it's taken the full point off. Let's wind it up a bit. So it's taken the full point off after the name there. It's added the parenthesis on the dates, which was missing there. You know, so you can this list of what it does shows you what it's changed for the different references. Okay, so I think that's about all we need to do on that one, and let's see what we've got next. Okay, right. With some formats, the idea is that if you've got a work that's got loads of authors, you might only want a limited number followed by et al. So we've got et al. Elision, which will do that, and this can be linked with the AuthorDateFormatter, because what it does is AuthorDateFormatter, when the AuthorDateFormatter knows how many surnames it's found for each reference. So AuthorDateFormatter can highlight a reference that has too many authors. Then you can run et al. Elision, and that will go through and shorten those references. So I will try running it. Oops, at et al. Elision run. Okay, so it's reduced it to 1, 2, 3 surnames and et al. Okay, so there's another one. Oh yes, this is where you've got like blogs brown and green, and many clients want that as blogs et al. And so this is et al. Citation elision. So I think that's on that key. Yes, it is. There you go. So that's done that one. So you just click in anywhere in the reference and run that macro. If sort of like linked with that macro, highlight all multi-author citations, so that will run through the whole document and find any that are of that format, and we'll put a highlight on it, and because they're highlighted they're brought to your attention, so you can say, oh, that's one I need to change, so it will reduce that to et al. Now. Switching author names and initials could be useful, although AuthorDateFormatter itself will do a lot of this. But actually the AuthorDateFormatter, it's worth knowing, only works with initial if the client wants names and initials. AuthorDateFormatter does not work if you've got full names for the forenames as opposed to initials. But these macros will swap any given name backwards and forwards, whichever one you want. And in preparing the video, I've discovered that this one seems to do the same sort of thing. It reverses the order of initials and surname, so that seems to be the same sort of thing. And one more here is move the date from the to the end of the references list. One of the earlier ones moved it from the end to the beginning. This is the beginning to the end. Okay. And talking of the end, oh look, that seems to be it. So that's it for now, and thanks for watching. Bye.